Welcome to the name game. Workout number 92 is Glut. Every 5 minutes for 5 total sets. You'll be doing 15 double unders, 10 wall balls, 5 burpee box jump overs, 10 squat snatches, and 15 more double unders. Your score for this workout is going to be the total time that it takes you across those 5 sets, with obviously being the goal to get the least amount of total time accumulated. Let's get into standards. The double unders is just a standard rope. It's got to pass under your feet twice. Obviously, it has to be successful reps in order to count those. For the wall balls, 20-pound ball for male, 14-pound ball for ladies. Both males and females are going to be throwing to an 11-foot target. So again, that's really up there. We need to make sure we keep the standard clean. Hip crease below knee at the start of each of the reps. And again, that ball where it actually contacts the wall needs to be above the 11-foot mark in order to count. Next is that burpee box jump over. This is a box facing burpee box jump over. So at the start of each rep, you need to make sure you're facing the box. You do have to jump up onto the box. There is no requirement to stand tall on the top of the box. And again, you can choose whether you jump off or step off the box on the next rep. Again, this is a standardized in terms of height for males and females. So both males and females will be going into a 30-inch box. For the squat snatch, just as the name suggests, you have to pass through a squat. So again, hip crease below knee, and then you need to make sure that you're standing up these reps fully, keeping it locked out before you lower down. So hips and knees extended, barbell in line with the body, elbows locked out before you lower down into your next rep. And then again, you're gonna finish out with those 15 double unders. So let's bring in Coach Chris and we'll talk about strategy.
So first impressions is, we were talking about it off air and you kind of said it's a fitness, more of a fitness play on the workout from the games.
Hat trick.
Yes, where it's like an execution style workout. And so, all of these movements in some capacity have an accuracy component to them, right? So
especially when you're doing them potentially as quickly as you can.
Well, yeah, because noted is the score is total time, right? So yes, you have a 5-minute window, but this is not like an aerobic piece where you're going 1-to-1, really, kind of moving at a methodical pace. Your score is, all right,
this is a race.
If this takes me, I'm making this up, right? But if this takes me a minute in round 1 and I fall apart and it takes me 2 minutes in round 2, well, it's like, okay, well, your score's really fallen behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, having the double unders, 15 is next to nothing, but it has an accuracy component, so you don't want to trip up on those. Wall balls to a high target, burpee box jump overs to a higher box, and then obviously, extremely a very light barbell, but forcing people to squat snatch it is a little bit of a different look there.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the number of transitions that you have, there's really not any super strong contractions there, minus maybe the box jump over. But even like that wall ball, relative to the amount of work that's there, it's not a challenging thing. Obviously, that bar is super light. Most people do double unders in much bigger sets than that we're working with. So it's like, it just as it sounds, becomes an execution workout. So like, how quickly can you pick up your rope, immediately go into a first double under versus like doing a single under first, like little details like that, like picking up your wall ball and like immediately dropping into your squat, like into the next rep, like catching it at the bottom of your squat versus like riding it out like you typically do with like a thruster.
Yep.
Simple things like that. Like if you're somebody who's got, even like pretty good capacity, like you should be thinking about trying to speed up this as quickly as you can.
Yeah. I mean, think of it like if you have like a track background or a swimming background or anything where it's like a racing background, right? You've all done some sort of sprint, rest, repeat type deal, right? And that's essentially what this is. So it's like, okay, hey, and I might be working, I'm making this up again, but let's say it takes me a minute, I have 4 minutes of rest. So I really want to make sure I'm sprinting here. But with our sport, the difference is there is that because you have implements involved, there is the accuracy component to it where, just to use it as an example, the squat snatch, it's 75 pounds for the guys, right? And so you could almost be like muscle snatching and pulling under, right?
Exactly.
But that doesn't, who's to say if you've never done that before, you don't accidentally like under pull and have to take a step forward or over pull and like you're falling back into your heels, right? Like we've all been in a workout where the barbell's super light, but you're so tired to misjudge a pull. And then it's like, well, shoot, I just dropped 95 pounds. Like,
Yeah. There's been so many, like, there's a lot of workouts like that. Like I'm thinking like particular, like overhead squats, but
Yes.
like you want to squat snatch the first rep when you're super tired and you're like, ooh, like this is a little wonky because like your shoulders are super tired. It's sort of like that when you've got, again, you've got some fatigue, but it's like you're trying to execute as quickly as you can. It's like stuff can become a little bit scattered. So obviously you want to be consistent as possible because it's across all 5 of those. But then also if you do make an error, like you can bury that in your total time as well.
Yeah.
So you can look at it both ways.
Sure. And so, I mean, I think this is, all these workouts we do for the name game are quote testers, right? Like we're competing, but this is something that's, I think the overarching aspect is very applicable to the sport, right? Especially not just something you mentioned, we saw it on the games, but like even more so in my opinion at like the local competition level where like every workout is like 12 minutes or less. And it's like, okay, so, I have to move quickly, but if I'm getting all these no reps, then it's like all of a sudden the workout runs away from you.
Mm-hmm. And it's often because, especially local comps, it's like, they're often simpler movements. Like the RX division is like, again, we had talked about this. It was like, Wadapalooza this year, it seemed like, man, I thought this was going to be in reach and it wasn't for the RX division. And like RX division locally can be like super easy sometimes. So if you are at like an RX level competition, those might be like they're just like class type movements that you're going to see. So it becomes like, how quickly can you do them? It comes down to like your cycle speed, and often shorter workouts, it feels like a sprint when you're doing that. So doing these types of repeats, again, especially as we get closer to the season, it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And then, you mentioned the season, right? Like transitions come into play as well. And that's, I mean, the open last year was like so much of the time was gained or lost in transition. So being able to transition quickly and get right into the next movement.
And lastly, we encourage as many people as possible to jump in with you and do these workouts. So you've got people who want to throw down with you, by all means, encourage them to do that. However, we want everyone to submit their scores, right? So where you're going to go to is zorfitness.com. You'll hit on menu, drop down from the protocol. You'll hit that tab called name game. And then you'll go down to the first workout, which should be the newest one. And you're going to click that little green arrow. There you'll be able to enter your name also with the workout name. That's important because it tags it so it doesn't get lost in the forum later on. But then you obviously are going to put your score or your time, and then you'll submit it. If you click on that little number next to it, you're going to see all the other comments, right? You might actually not be able to view them all. So if you hit view all comments, that's going to take you down sort of a leaderboard where you get to compare scores. And then also your coach gets to help determine where you stack up versus other competitors to be able to determine your individual weaknesses. This is going to be super helpful for us, pretty exciting and engaging for you guys. And if you're someone who's watching this, you're not a Zor Fitness athlete yet, I'll link to it below, but you can either check out the protocol or one-on-one coaching and we'll reach out, see if you're a good fit. And for everyone, best of luck on the workout.